Okay, I'm out here working in the dark on the C5, making some changes from the previous setup that were not the smartest. So previously, the vent can was mounted super high up on the engine, and there was what I'm assuming was a Venturi effect coming over the car because the hood couldn't go on. And the air would pass over that filter and create a negative pressure in the hose, just like a sandblaster tank basically, and it would blast oil all over the place. So I mounted that a little nicer down on the frame rail. The 2 3/4 inch lines, which are dash 12, are a little overkill, so I capped that, and I'm running just a single into it, and then we'll have our drain at the bottom so I can drain it. Second, I think they're right here. This engine's 12-to-1, and I was running the stock TR5 NGK spark plug for a stock LS heat range as a starting point, which was a little spicy. So now I've got some BR7s. Their 2 heat ranges colder, and these should work a lot better. Basically, when a spark plug gets too hot, what the heat range on a spark plug means, if we put them side by side, see how much farther? Well, this is a projected plug. We're not looking at how much the porcelain sticks out of the threads compared to the BR7. We're looking down the plug of how deep the porcelain goes before it reaches the sides of the plug, like the threads. And so what happens is this very top of the electrode right here gets too hot. And if spark plug's too hot, it'll basically glow red and cause some pre-ignition issues. But if it's too cold, it won't get hot enough to burn off any carbon, and you'll be fouling your plug. So it's kind of a tuning game of trial and error until you find the right heat range, but these should be a lot better. So I'm gonna swap to those plugs, fixed this. I was also running a 40 weight oil, a 10W40 break-in oil, and at idle, I had like 50 pounds of oil pressure. So I've dropped down to a 1030 to lower the oil pressure. If you have too much oil pressure in a motor, it just basically causes unnecessary heat in the oil, just like on an air system, like turbos in an air compressor. Whenever you compress something, it heats up. So we don't need that thick of an oil, so I'm gonna go back to a 1030. And then while the intake was off, I decided to do a little more port cleanup on it. But I'm gonna finish getting these plugs swapped in, and we can put the car back on the ground. And then tomorrow, once I get the intake manifold installed, fire it back up and see how things are looking. Okay, time for a little more C5 updates. That is actually the timing cover. This is the original timing cover on the new 402-inch engine that I built for this car. Take a look at that. It's all back together now. It's got a new timing cover on it. And basically what happened is pretty embarrassing as an engine builder to say this, but you know, I built this engine. I was pretty rushed building it because of the time frame. You know, I have Texas Mile. Basically 1 week from now, I will be at the mile. And because of that, it was an engine that I was building after hours, late at night, after already working an 8-hour shift and then another several hours. And I completely forgot and missed a step. And to be fair, if I can put out one itty bitty little excuse, I was having a lot of contemplation about the camshaft timing in the engine as far as where the intake center line was. And it's kind of a tuning tool in the engine to shift your torque curve. And I built the engine originally, had the cam straight up. I didn't have time to engine dyno it at our shop. And so I was contemplating, well, is this camshaft a little too small for my RPM range? And so I took it back apart, put it back together, 2 degrees retarded, called a buddy, asked him, hey, does this make sense? Am I doing this? Like, just needed a second opinion. He talked me out of it, so the camshaft was fine, especially with the high ram. So then I put it back together, and this is at like 10 o'clock at night. And I forgot to torque the cam down, believe it or not. So all the oil that was splattering up on my windshield was from a massive hole in my timing cover. But now I've got the catch can system fixed better. New timing cover is on. And it was actually kind of nice because I had an excuse to pull the oil pan, or I had to pull the oil pan off to clean out all the aluminum from the timing cover getting ground away by the cam bolts. And I could actually visually see the bottom of the piston skirts which I was pretty worried about because this is a Gen 4 6.0 truck iron block, which has the shortest cylinder sleeves of the LS family. And the piston gets pulled about halfway out the bottom of that sleeve. And whenever you do that, the piston can rock a lot and it can collapse the skirts and tear it up. But while I had the pan off, I was able to look and everything looks perfect. So because everything looks so good on the engine and whatnot, I'm actually going to chassis dyno the car later this afternoon at Josh's shop, Lunatic Garage. And we're also going to do some testing where we'll find out how much power, we'll dial in the tune-up perfectly, find out what timing it needs, what air-fuel ratio it needs. And then I'm going to pull the filter out, see how much power it makes. And then I also have a really nice bell mouth throttle body that we'll put on, delete this pipe, bypass this, and see how much power that makes, and potentially run just that at the Texas Mile, because it's on an airport runway, and for a race car, you don't really need a filter while you're racing, at least. Okay, we are back on the chassis dyno at Lunatic Garage. This is a Dynajet model. Need to get the car strapped down. And then again, we're gonna find out how much power total it makes, get it tuned in with this air induction setup. Then I'm gonna pull the filter out of this VariRam, see how much power difference that makes, and then we'll put on the bell mouth throttle body adapter and just delete this pipe, and it'll just be straight open air. Okay, I'm on the dyno right now. This is gonna be our first pull. My current air-fuel ratio is 12.5 to 1 gasoline. It's an E85, so 0.85 lambda, and I'm at 25 degrees total timing. So we're gonna rip it here and see how it looks. Okay, first pull made 507. So we're gonna give it a degree of timing across the board, then make a second hit. Okay, so on the dyno, with the car loaded the way it is, the clutch is slipping really bad up until about 4,500 RPM. On the street, I don't notice it because I'm already above 4,500 RPM by the time I hit fourth gear, but below it in fourth, on this dyno, it's slipping. So the fuel was a little rich, so I leaned it out across the board, and then I added 1 degree of timing, so now it's running 26 degrees, and then it goes to 27 after 6,000 RPM. So we'll do another pull here, and then we'll overlay it on the graphs and see what they look like. Okay, so the clutch is still slipping. It made 522 that time, so it picked up 14 horsepower with 1 more degree and less fuel. So my question to Josh is, all right, Texas Mile next week, do we keep making pulls and keep smoking the clutch, or just send it as it is and stop making pulls?
That's up to you, sir.
No, that is not up to me. You're the expert. This is your dyno.
I mean, you can keep making pulls on it. It's going to be fine.
The clutch only has realistically 6,000 miles on it.
It'll be fine.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna test it now with this setup and see if this makes any big of a difference, and then possibly run that at Texas Mile if it does. Okay, just pulled it with the bell mouth adapter. Picked up another 9 horsepower. So here's about where we're at. 531 horse, 484 torque. It's not bad. It's about what I was expecting, especially on out here with the clutch slipping. How much did it make with just the tube on it?
531. Or with the bell mouth?
Yeah.
Bell mouth was 531.
So it picked up 6 horsepower going through the Variram with no filter versus just the fucking bell mouth.
Just getting more velocity.
That would make sense. And it's everywhere across the entire board too. I would not have expected that. Are you still getting any clutch smoke?
I didn't smell any clutch that time. Did you? No, I didn't smell anything. So it might be that the clutch might be drying off.
So I'm hearing make another pull. All right, I'm gonna put another degree on it and lean the fuel again and rinse, repeat. Yeah, 26, and then after 6 grand it goes 27 with E85, 12-1. So I'm targeting 0.85 lambda, and you can see we're pretty much there. But after 4800 it goes rich, comes back, and then goes rich again. So I'm gonna lean it out in all these areas. And right here, this green line is my spark. You can see right here, 26 degrees. And pretty much all through here, 26 and a half. So we're gonna add another degree. More timing, less fuel. Should hopefully equal more power. Okay, so your boy, there's a lot going on whenever you chassis dyno a cart, especially with clutch potentially smoking and all of that. And I kind of forgot there were 2 octane tables for the Spark, so I was adding all of my timing on the high octane when my car runs the low octane because it's in speed density only mode. And so the good news is we made all that power on 25, 26 degrees, so now we're actually adding timing. And yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, I see the peak was 538. However, it was less everywhere, basically until 6,200 once the power started falling off, once cylinder air mass went down. So basically what I'm seeing is put the lower timing back in it all the way up to 6, and then we'll leave it there and I think call it a day. 538. What can we do to make 2 more horsepower? No, I'm not gonna try to chase it. All right, cool. I think that's it then. What's up, guys? Last time you saw me, we were at Lunatic Garage dynoing the C5 back there. But real quick, I want to show you the newest addition to this race program. It ain't no quadruple stacker toter home, but just got our first little open trailer, little steel deck 18-footer, double axle. Still need to get a spare tire for it and measure for the race ramps so we can load up the C5 and stuff like that. Don't mind how dirty the truck is. I need to clean that before the mile next weekend. But speaking of getting clean, the C5 over here is getting a full paint correction, buff, polish, wax, ceramic coat, you name it, by my friend Nolan.
who has a little side business, auto detailing, Bernie, Texas. And so he's giving it the full treatment here. And literally after like an hour or two of him just being here, this thing looks like a brand new Corvette again. And I got the hood back on. I added a 1-inch spacer on the high ram because the heads are so small for this engine. It had to clearance it a little bit more in the back. It was connected in the back previously, but now the high ram sits so much taller, I had to lop that off. Yeah, we're getting this thing spit shined real quick and getting it ready. That is insane. You said right now you're just doing the final prep before ceramic coat?
Yes, sir.
Ridiculous. My favorite part after this getting done is when you feel the paint and it feels just like glass. There's absolutely not even a scratch on it anymore. Absolutely insane, dude. 99 Corvette looking brand new again with 120 something thousand miles. Sick. Feel pretty good?
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
I actually like how supportive it is.
I do too. It feels good.
Like it.
And they're like multiple sizes you can pick
Mhm.
from. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's fitted pretty well on me, and I'm like a 31, 32 inch waist. Yeah, they have several different widths for the base of them.
That's fun. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, it is.
Race car.
Different shifter.
So it's got an MGW in it, but I like the stock handle, to be honest. Kind of sticks with the theme of 90s
Yes.
C5 stuff.
It's stock, just with a big
Yeah,
intake on
you'd
it.
never know except for the cage, the Kirky, the 6-point harness, and a high
Just tell
ram.
people not to look inside.
Yeah, or at the hood, or the wheels, or the 888s. Stock C5.
Yeah, people don't know. I dig it. Weight reduction, huh?
Dude, they kind of sag down. So yeah, I just took them off. And like, I'm so tall
That's a good
that
excuse.
I sit up in there, and you'd be surprised at with what little windshield there is. Kind of blocks the view.
Have you yanked door speakers yet?
Nope. Nope, those are all still in it. It's even got, look, it's even got the old, if I can get this camera to focus on it, the rear speaker's way back there.
Yeah. Oh.
Factory Bose, sir. This is a luxury automobile. All right, everybody. C5 is all prettied up for the mile. The only other thing we need to change that Josh, the shop owner where I dyno this car at, he mentioned that, because right now I have the catch can in the front, and now the timing cover's fixed, the oil spraying issue was also fixed. However, he mentioned that if during the run something goes wrong in the engine and that catch can fills up with oil, because it's in the front of the car, all that oil is going to go underneath it and could potentially get under the tires. So he recommended me to move it back up under the bumper right here on the rear quarter panel, so that way if worst case scenario something happens, that fills up with oil, it sprays oil behind me, keeping the tires clean. So I ordered a whole bunch of hose and fittings to relocate it, and so that stuff will come in next Tuesday. It's Saturday right now, and once that comes in, we're ready for the mile.